Hello there everyone, and welcome back to Void Dwarf Studios for the beginning of a new lore series. This time, we are going to be looking into a new faction in Age of Sigmar, one that has its roots right back into the very beginnings of the old world, and are still quite active in the Age of Sigmar one to this day. We are of course talking about every child's favourite combination, dinosaurs and lizards with spaceships and laser guns. Oh, and with magic thrown on top. We of course can be talking about none other than the Seraphon, or the lizard men to the old guard like me. The Seraphon, as they have been renamed in Age of Sigmar, are the remnants of the world that was. They are part of the original plan the Old Ones set out for the old world, although what that plan really was is up to conjecture, because, well, it kind of failed, didn't it? The old world kind of blew up, and the lizard men, as they were known then, fled into their temple cities, which turned out were actually spaceships. Because of course they were. And, yeah, the lizard men just didn't really realise this until the very last second. Or so it seemed. Screw the end times. That's all I have to say. But in Age of Sigmar, the lizard men have a new impetus. They have a new desire. They still believe that they are following the Old One's plan. The difference here is that they are exacting vengeance more than anything else. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let us start at the beginning of our Age of Sigmar story. After the lizard men fled from the old world, they travelled around in space during the Age of Myth. It's not really known for how long exactly, but we can deduce that as Sigmar was drifting in the void for goodness knows how long, it could have been days, years, thousands, hundreds, 10 maybe. Who knows? We really don't know. But the main thing we do know is that Dracothian, the Great Drake, came upon the Seraphon's temple cities floating in the void, and he found these alien structures to be quite curious, and he sought them out. A giant celestial dragon, you tend to get bored every now and again, and you find these little distractions amusing, one would assume. But as the dragon got closer to these very small temple cities floating in the void, he was able to make contact with the Slan Star Masters, meditating within their temple cities. And the very first thing he realised upon meeting these creatures was the depths of their sorrow and despair, mingled with rage. The Seraphon were completely broken from what had happened in the world that was. The great plan that they had worked so hard for, the entire existence, was to fulfill this plan that the Old Ones had set out for them from the very beginning of creation, and they had failed. It's quite hard to come back from that kind of grief, but Dracothian sympathised with this grief and their rage, as it was no lover of chaos and had no desire to see the Seraphon continue to suffer, and in time Dracothian persuaded many of the Slan to join him in the realm of Azerheim, and this is where they made port for the time being, out of range of Sigmar and his influence, but in the same realm. I believe it's entirely likely that Sigmar is aware that the Seraphon are just chilling out on top of his special city, but he has paid them no real mind, as the Seraphon have always been a mysterious race to everyone else, who keep their own counsel and don't tend to negotiate with others unless they feel it is absolutely necessary. And Sigmar knew full well that he could count on the Seraphon to not try to kill him. Probably. Almost certainly. He knew they were an enemy against chaos, at the very least. And also at the time Sigmar didn't really have, well, the time to go chasing after the Seraphon to find out what they were doing. He was busy exploring the different realms and realising the significance of a new chance to start without chaos. And the Seraphon realized this as well, but they took a very, very different view. The Seraphon were under no illusion whatsoever that chaos would come for them all, and as many of the Slan in their rage and grief took their starships across the void and fought any form of chaos they could to exterminate it from, well, the galaxy at this point. It's really hard to say how effective they were, but the main thing we do know is that the Slan viewed the new realms as a new battleground. This was their opportunity, they felt, not only to make amends for not being able to protect the old world. Now they can make a new chapter in their story by safeguarding the 9 realms. And they were going to be damned if chaos was going to destroy another home. And using the new powers, magics, technologies, and, well, impressive powers at their disposal, the Slan set to work safeguarding the various magical ley lines and areas of significant magical sources within the mortal realms, keeping as much as possible away from the mortal races, as they really didn't want to get involved, and would rather they continued the great plan without really being interrupted by the other races. However, as the Slan knew would happen, chaos did come, and with the breaking of the alliance of the gods, the Slan were unable to prevent chaos from seeping into the world. In fact, chaos would have overwhelmed the realms far faster if the Seraphon had not been able to slow this advance. And that is with the power of their imagination. Quite literally, in fact. The Slan were capable using purely their imagination and magic and memory, most important of all, to recreate hordes of their lizardmen armies, Saurus warriors, skink skirmishers, carnosaurs, tricerodons, steglodons, giant beasts of burden, creatures with ravenous hunger for chaotic flesh, and a particular grudge to settle, bristling with starlight magic all around them, and disappearing as if by, well, magic, either in starlight or just, poof, vanishing completely out of the blue. They can appear completely out of the blue as well. This ability to basically jump and move around the realms thanks to their, well, spaceships, let's just call them spaceships, as temple cities, whilst they are temple cities, they really are just stylized spaceships, could move around the different realms at will, and so they could be wherever they wanted to be at any time, and no one ever knew of their coming because, well, they would just appear. They would just appear out of nowhere. And really, there wasn't a whole lot Chaos could do to properly pin them down and figure out where they were. In fact, this tactic worked so well that the Seraphon, whilst never being able to push Chaos back and unable to prevent the tide of Chaos from overrunning the other realms, they did manage to, at the very least, get the boot kicked in every once in a while, along with the Fire Slayers and any other race feeling particularly lucky in this particular time in history. However, when Sigmar and his Stormcast came thundering out from the realm of heaven, the Seraphon saw this as the golden opportunity to properly strike a blow back against Chaos, and occasionally allying themselves with the various races in the realms of Sigmar, they have found more often than not that they can fight alongside them, so long as no one goes wandering into their temple cities. An interesting addition that has happened is that there are now 2 variations on Seraphon. Some of the temple cities that orbited the 9 realms have landed in one realm or another and set up a new temple complex. The spacefaring craft now going back to the temple cities that the lizardmen were, well, familiar with, and where these temple cities land, which tends to be near a vast magical source, it tends to change the landscape around it. Lush forests and jungles spread out all over the place. Bogs and swamps and great Amazon-like rivers stream in and out of the temple city, seemingly from nowhere. And these lizard men have changed. Before, the Slan could summon armies with the power of their mind. Now, the Slan were able to recreate the spawning pools that allowed the lizard men in the old world to exist. And this meant that rather than figments of their imagination, which were kind of semi-corporeal and, well, disappeared upon the Slan no longer needing them, these creatures were now flesh and blood. The star magic still a little inside them, still an essence of that magic from the Slan, but more flesh and blood, more physical, more primal than their star-bound cousins. And this has been more or less the state of being for the Seraphon up until the Broken Realms, where during the Age of Myth, the Slan, alongside Dracothea, found that Kragnos really needed to be sealed away, as he was going around literally murdering the Dracothian race of smaller dragons. And Lord Croak, the oldest Slan to technically exist, and I say technically exist because whilst his spirit still remains within his body, he is very dead. And has been so for, frankly at this point, thousands upon thousands of years. Said to have been the first Slan to have been born on the world that was, under the creation of the Old Ones. This is a being old enough to remember teaching magic to the High Elves. He is ridiculously old. And during the Great Catastrophe, where chaos seeped into the old world, it was the strength of his spirit alone that managed to protect his temple city of Itza. His magic being so powerful, it banished demons away left, right and centre. Decided that, along with Dracothea, they would seal him away and prevent him from causing more trouble. At least, that is what they hoped, until, well, the Broken Realms happened. So yeah, that's now a bit of a problem. But that is the current state of affairs for the mortal realms as far as the Seraphon are involved. It is their plan and duty, as far as they see it, in their cold, amphibious, reptilian-type minds, to bring about order and remove chaos, as, whilst deciphering the various plaques and texts from the old ones are complicated to the extreme, the Seraphon know one thing for sure. Chaos is the enemy of order, and wherever it may be, in whatever form it may take, they must destroy it. It is their literal existence and reason for being. And if you wish to stand in the way, then you've got to be prepared to fight your way through a lot of dinosaurs, some ridiculously crazy magic, and quite possibly end up being the dinner of a carnosaur. And that's the Seraphon in a nutshell. I will be going over the various different aspects of a Seraphon army, as well as the named characters and the usual stick I tend to do when I go through these kinds of factions. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you all so much for supporting this channel. Please continue to like and subscribe, and put a little comment down below, as the YouTube algorithm does seem to love being told that I'm still existing and that people are talking to me. And to be honest, I rather like talking back, because you all seem like cool people, and frankly, this has been one hell of a fun journey. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Until next time, take care everyone.